I'm going to read from John 2, 1 through 10. This is the sermon for May 8th, 2022. John 2, 1 through 10. There was a wedding in the village of Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there. Jesus and his disciples were guests also. When they started running low on wine at the wedding banquet, Jesus' mother told him, "They're just about out of wine." She told the servants, "Whatever he tells you, do it." 6 stoneware water pots were there, each held 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus ordered the servants, "Fill the pots with water," and they filled them to the brim. "Now fill your pitchers and take them to the host," Jesus said, and they did. When the host tasted the water that had become wine, he didn't know what had just happened, but the servants, of course, knew. He called out to the bridegroom, "Everybody I know begins with their finest wines, and after the guests have had their fill, brings in the cheap stuff. But you've saved the best till now." Well, last week I talked about the power of resurrection over systems that have a death grip on a lot of people. And it was a serious sermon, more heavy. And so today, in contrast, I wanted to talk about playing, and I wanted to talk about being happy. And so I chose the scripture, and I want to look at it. I came across a wonderful question this week. Here it is. Are you willing to be happy? People tend to have a negative view. I know it's evolutionary. We look for trouble and then we try to avoid it. It's like when there's an accident, we want to know, how was that caused? What happened? So that we can avoid it. It's almost magical thinking. Even today, I asked someone who was on crutches, and I said, "Oh, how did it happen?" And she told me, but it was a freak accident, and she's undergone surgeries. It's been tough for her. But she's the type who does look at the bright side of things, even though she has quite a lot of pain. But everybody wants to be happy. The key is to find happiness no matter what. The key is to look for the good and find some measure of happiness no matter what. Everybody wants to be happy. There are some Christians who say, "No, you don't want to be happy. What you want is joy." Nah, everybody really wants to be happy. I know that. I know it. It's true for myself. Besides, if you have joy, you will be happy anyway. So some people are focused on what's wrong in the world, and they set about making it right, and they have a gift for it. And those people, they have a tough time relaxing because almost everything needs fixing. You never have all your tasks done, right? And so it's hard. You have to loosen your grip sometimes on the work that we're called to do, and then it's hard for us to let go of. There are times when we can do as much as we can, and then we let go. There are others who are kind of depressive. I know my Enneagram type tends toward being sad or being down or looking for the pain in life. We can be a bit like Eeyore. You know how Eeyore is. You can look for the profound disappointments in life, the pain in life. But we also have to ask, am I willing to be happy? Am I willing to be happy? So often we get up in the morning and we go to have breakfast and there's no cereal in the cereal box. That's what I wanted for breakfast. And it didn't go right. And we think, oh, the day's ruined. Instead, there were probably 10,000 things that went right. You were able to get up and walk to the breakfast table. We have a house with a roof on it. We have a bed that's comfortable. We have food and clean water and a fairly healthy family. yeah, we can look at all the things that are working well and focus on that, and that can contribute to happiness. For the most part, we would all be happy if we could focus on all that was good and not on the one thing that didn't work out. Now, there are exceptions to that. Sometimes tough news comes and it throws us for a loop. And oh boy, I know that's true. But also, we can choose to be happy. The question, how are you, is often asked, and it's often answered, I'm hanging in there. Well, does that mean you're having a tough time? Maybe. Maybe you're really reasonably happy, but you'd rather answer, I'm hanging in there, instead of say, I'm reasonably happy. It's something I'm going to work on. I'm going to start saying, I'm reasonably happy in answer to that. My friend in Florida, whenever I ask her, how are you? She says, spectacular. Just like that. And she means it. She finds adventure everywhere she looks, and she finds fun, and she talks up kids with permission of their parents, and so she has fun everywhere she goes. I tend to be a worrier, and I look for trouble, and then I find it. And so I'm always working on improving that attitude. Getting out in nature has helped me. Having lost weight and kept it off has helped me. Looking for new learning all the time has helped me not be a worrier and not look for trouble, but instead find all the reasons that I can be happy. I stopped listening to so much bad news. You know how the news industry is. If it bleeds, it leads. And people can get a warped view of the world in that way. I hear soon enough about things that matter. I've got to confess, though, that I was whining about the cold, windy, rainy spring that we've had because I was so ready to get out in good weather. So whenever I whine, I give you permission to call me on it. There's a new word I've heard people say, whinging. It's a different way to say whining, whinging. Many of us joined a pandemic whine club. Or how about divided politics in America, whine club? Or I'm just tired of it all, whine club. Or I don't understand them, whine club. When we're whining or complaining, our lives become empty, colorless, tasteless, no passion or energy, running on empty, unmotivated, lacking imagination, creativity. You see the kind of place whining takes us to. Depression and lethargy replace desire, interest, and curiosity. When we're whining, we tend to play it safe rather than trying something new and different. Sometimes when we're whining, we blame others instead of taking responsibility. Sometimes we're no longer grounded in the present moment. If we're trying to change the past, a futile effort, or control the future, again, not going to happen, then things do become tired and colorless and no motivation. What is a negative attitude telling you? What's the wine that is giving out in your life? What's lacking? Jesus takes a very different path, and we can celebrate that. Jesus celebrates joy and happiness and wine, the wine that the water turned into. Not a little wine, but a lot of wine. 120 to 180 gallons of wine. That's a lot of wine, and the very best wine. And the servants knew what had happened. The one person in charge had no idea where the wine had come from. He thought that the bridegroom had taken it out. Instead, Jesus is focused on the joy and the happiness. Throughout the whole Bible, there is what I would call the Grand Reversal Happiness Club. So we see it with the disciples when things looked most bleak. Surprise! The resurrection. And God is at work bringing joy and community in our midst. Resurrection is joy and happiness. Sometimes it's tears of relief. When Israel reached the end, as far as they could see, a grand reversal took place. The Pharaoh's own daughter adopted Moses as a baby and hired the baby's mother and paid her to nurse her own baby. That is a grand reversal of the first order. It's a trickster story. You all know about trickster stories in Native American tales. They're throughout history. Jesus' death at the hands of the Roman Empire was a grand reversal. It looked like the end. And then, surprise, when Jesus was declared Lord by the disciples, only Caesar could be Lord. In fact, it was like high treason to call anyone Lord but Caesar. And so when the disciples called Jesus Lord, it was nothing short of revolution. Again, a grand reversal. Another reason to leave whining and complaining behind and to look for the grand reversals and the happiness is because whining doesn't really change anything. That certainly has been true in my life. In fact, whining seems to serve a purpose, that is to distract us from whatever the real issue is. And it lets us avoid life. And so it's not a good thing to do. Are you willing to be happy? What's needed to be happy? Are you going to wait until you have all your tasks done in order to be happy? When do you ever stop reaching for the next thing? We're human. That's the kind of thing we tend to do. Our choice is to be happy in the midst of whatever we're doing and to spread happiness as a natural outcome of being happy ourselves. Others will want to join us as we tap into God's love, the wine of happiness. What gives color and fragrance to your life? What would add vibrancy, passion, and energy? What would inspire you and fill your life to the brim? How do we get more wine when we feel empty, overwhelmed, or abandoned? I know how crazy and impossible it sounds, but 120 or 180 gallons of wine, the transformation of water to wine is a metaphor for the transformation of our lives. We can move toward wonder and curiosity. We can move to fermenting, the movement and the change of things. I'm not sure we know how to make ourselves happy. I don't think we do. But we don't have to, because happiness rests with God's love. It's not our work to turn water into wine. That's the process of life and love that God works in us. What we do is chop wood and carry water. We put all the pieces in place. We do our work. And yet we do it with an awareness of love and the good in community and the joy of laughter, especially when we risk sharing who we are with others, not in a burdensome way, but by being real and authentic. Transformation is already happening. We can chop wood and carry water. We can put the pieces in place to be happy. We know how to fill water jugs, right? And God will turn the water into wine. The water we carry looks like love, compassion, self-giving, courage, hope, and faith. It looks like wonder and beauty and thanksgiving. It looks like hospitality and welcoming the stranger. Sometimes we're strangers to ourselves. We move through life not really knowing who we are on the inside. So we can welcome the stranger even within our own lives. The movement from water to wine, the water we carry, looks like mercy and forgiveness. It looks like prayer, intimacy, and vulnerability. It looks like staying connected to and concerned about others. It looks like peace, justice, and human dignity. It looks like seeing and treating others like I would like to be seen and treated. That's what water into wine is like. It's that transformation. The cup of salvation might be filled with water at times, and God will transform it into wine. Taste and see. Taste and see. Amen.